Welcome to today's video. So if you don't know already, 343 Industries are starting to move away from Halo Infinite development and move on to the next Halo game. So I thought I would make a video about a wish list of items or characters or enemies or whatever of things I want to see in the next Halo game or Halo 7 or whatever it's going to be. So let's start off with the video, shall we? Alright, so we're going to start off with infantry and units. So that'd be any sentry AIs or characters or anything like that. Alright, so I'm sure we can all agree upon this one. We haven't had ODSTs in a Halo game for a long time, and it would just be nice to have them back. Alright, here's another one. So the Hellbringers, or Flamethrower units, in Halo Wars would be cool to have in a Halo game, and they could also bring back the Flamethrower, kind of like how it was in Halo 3, which would just be really fun to use. So the Cyclops is technically a vehicle and not a unit, but in Halo Wars 2, it's counted as infantry, so we're gonna add it in this category. But, like, the player wouldn't have to be able to drive it, it would just be really cool to see one march through the battlefield and wipe out a whole bunch of banished or whatever the heck we're gonna be fighting in the next Halo game. So, the Cryo Troopers are a unit in Halo Wars 2 that use cryo fluid to freeze their units, and that would just be really darn cool to see in game and like freeze all your units, and then you can punch them or something, and then they'll just shatter. And like Halo Infinite already had elemental kind of guns with the hard light, electricity, and kinetic, so they could have some sort of ice weaponry, which would be pretty darn cool. Alright, so first off with the banished units, we have the cannon fodder, which in Halo Wars is a grunt that is a lot weaker than the normal ones, and it has no weapon, and it just essentially overwhelms the enemy and forces them to try something different, or, yeah. So, it'd just be kind of fun to have a bunch of little grunts that you have to defend against, because, dying by a grunt, it's something that is kind of funny, because you didn't account for the little tiny guy. So, we haven't had engineers in a long time in any game, except for Halo Wars 2. So it'd just be really cool to have them back, and they could, like, recover or provide health to units that have been damaged or repair vehicles, as they do in Halo Wars 2. So you'd make sure you would take them out before they can heal all the units that survived your rocket launcher barrage. Alright, so next is Goliaths. And these are massive hunters that essentially didn't separate into two separate hunters, and they just stayed in one singular colony, or whatever they would be correctly in the lore. But it'd be really cool to have these in like a huge battle or something, some sort of encounter that you have to try to figure out how to shoot it between the cracks of its armor. And I mean, it's a big melee creature, so it's not like it could shoot you. It would have to be close and personal, and you'd have to try to run away from it or get somewhere above it. Alright, so the Grunt Goblin would essentially be the same as the Halo 5 Grunt Goblin mech that was in Warzone Firefight, just with banished color scheme. And it'd be really cool to have this in a campaign and not just stuck in one game that is a game mode and not in the campaign. So next is more of just a general thing and not one singular unit, because in the lore, the Banished have a lot of different hunter variants, and not just the standard hunters. So it'd be a lot cooler to have like more powerful variants of the hunters, and not just some red painted hunter like it was in Halo Infinite, and more banished looking with their massive shield, or even maybe even the ironclad hunters that have two massive shields and no cannon. Alright, so the skitters are little four-legged robots that are powered by Legolo worms, or hunter worms, if you don't know what Legolo are. And you can attach them to, or assign them to units, and they'll defend it and provide more firepower. So if they be added to next Halo game, that's what they could do as well. But they would also provide a greater detection range, so you couldn't just sneak up on a high-ranking officer that has a skitter, because it would have the skitter looking out for it, so you have to be further away from it to properly take it out from a range without the skitter knowing you were there. And when you defeat the officer before that you take care of the skitter would probably go to the next highest officer or just crawl around on the ground and try to attack you. Alright, so this one is one of my favorites that I really want added, is the Hunter Captain. And the Hunter Captain is essentially a humongous hunter, like can be 14 to 18 feet tall, which is like taller than Warden Eternal was in Halo 5. They have a bond brother, but they can be extremely far away from them because they have far greater armor that can help them communicate better. And they also help the colony govern Legolo within the Banished. Alright, we're starting off vehicles with the Grizzly. So, if you ever played Halo Wars, I'm pretty sure you know what the Grizzly is. It's a far more powerful version of the tank, and it just honestly looks really darn cool, and it'd be awesome to have in a game. So the Wolverine is kind of an odd one out on this list because it only has one purpose, and that's to take care of anti-air. But if we get a lot more air vehicles in the next Halo game, that would be very useful in this. And yeah, Halo Wars has a lot of vehicles that would be awesome to have in another game. Alright, so we have both the Command Mantis and the normal Mantis. And it would just be cool to have these back in another game, because they had the Mantis in Halo 4 and 5, and now it's just gone. And it kind of was fun to actually use and drive around a mech in Halo. And the Command Mantis is a lot more powerful than the normal version, and would also be really darn cool to see in a game, especially with how powerful it would be, and we could use it against, say, the Hunter Captain if that got added, and in some sort of boss battle kind of style. Alright, so the Colossus is a massive mech that is used by the UNSC, and we could use this in large-scale battles and protecting other sort of facilities. And maybe even in the next Halo game, there could be some sort of base building system, and we would have to defend the bases and go on campaigns against the Banished. So the Frost Raven is another one of those cryo units that can spray cryo liquid, or whatever it properly is called, on its enemies and freeze them. Alright, I think we all understand this one. The Falcon was really fun to use in Halo Reach. It'd be really cool to see in Halo Infinite, but we don't think that's going to come, so it'd be cool to see that in the next Halo game. The Elephant is also kind of self-explanatory, except for probably not the Halo 3 version, and instead the Halo 1, or the Halo Wars 1 version, because it could spawn units and it was, in some sort of way, a small mini mobile base, which was really fun to command around the maps in Halo Wars 1. We also have the Condor, which they mention in Halo Infinite, but it's just a bunch of wreckage, and it would be fun and interesting to see them fly around the map and be a heavy lift vehicle. Alright, starting off with the banished vehicles, we have the Blisterback. The Blisterback is an air vehicle, but it also artillery. So it can launch missiles off its back when it's grounded, and is also a heavy hitter when in the air. I was quite disappointed that this wasn't in Halo Infinite, because these things are really cool in Halo Wars 2, and the sound they make when opening their back, I find satisfying. Alright, this one's self-explanatory. We need a Scarab, and we haven't had one since Reach, and we didn't even get to fight it. We want Scarabs back in the Halo series. Alright, so the Wraith Invader is essentially a mobile troop transport that the Banished uses, and it'd be quite satisfying to see this in-game, and it just rolls up to the battlefield and drops off a bunch of units, and would make the game a lot more cool, and instead of just phantoms dropping in a bunch of units all the time, and instead we would have Wraith Invaders as well, or maybe Spirits included. And then we have the Locust, which in Halo Wars 2 is a building killer, but we could also use it to storm banished forts like there was in Halo Infinite, and this would be a drivable banished walker, unlike the Scarab, which I'm pretty sure would just be a big AI. And finally, we have the banished Lich. I personally was a fan of the Lich in Halo 4, and the banished really have a good looking Lich, and so maybe we could storm Liches like we did in Halo 4, and that'd be really fun to do. Yeah, I don't know what you're expecting. Just give us all the old Halo weapons back. Like, all of them. They were really fun to use, and especially give us all the banished weapons. And the extras category is stuff that I didn't really know where to put it. So this would include dual-wielding weapons, as it was in Halo 2 and 3, playable elites, which I'm pretty sure we all want, split screen, which is what made Halo Halo. Thank you for staying to the very end of the video. If you agree with any of the points I made, make sure to like and let me know what else you want to see in the Halo games in the future, and maybe show your friends the video. Try to get the word about. Maybe 343 might see the video one day. Maybe they can take notes. Anyways, have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.